Good afternoon. Your presence here today is overwhelming and greatly appreciated. I thank you for coming out to help celebrate the life and legacy of our dear friend, Peter Frame. Before I begin, I also would like to extend our humblest, sincere condolences to the family, and they're sitting up front, so after the service is over, please come down and give them love and hugs and just express your opinion and how you feel and comfort them. And by the way, I would be remiss if I did not mention that this whole event was planned by an architect. I call the architect of the event, Dr. Paul Frame, planned this ceremony for you. We're here to celebrate the life and passion and purpose of our friend, Peter Frame. Out of Timothy, second book of Timothy, chapter 4, verse 1 comes, I have fought the good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept my faith. Drive, discipline, determination, and dedication are hallmark qualities of a balancing dancer, along with musicality and a commitment to this art we love so much. Peter was a balancing dancer. This commitment was not only an honor, it is and always will be a trademark of the New York City Ballet, and Peter was loyal to it. Not only was Peter a talented and gifted individual, he also had what one might call the it factor. He was adored by directors, choreographers, fellow dancers, and ballerines throughout the world. He proved himself to be a consummate artist who had passion and purpose. I first met Peter about 40 years ago when he attended my alma mater, the University of the North Carolina School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. I was his dorm attendant and counselor, and I asked Peter to make sure his room was cleaned by curfew. He thought I was a bit stern, a bit uptight, but I meant business. But young Peter took it for granted, and he fell asleep in his room with his door closed. And while that was going on, I was in the hallway filling up a container, a trash can, full of water, and I just propped it against his door. When he woke up in the morning and opened the door, his whole room was afloat. So I guess you can say I helped him clean his room up. He giggled, he chuckled, and we became friends for life. After graduation, Peter received a scholarship to study with the prestigious School of American Ballet and their distinguished faculty in New York City. This was offered to him by our dear friend, the late Violette Verdi. He was invited into the New York City Ballet by the late George Balanchine as an apprentice, and with a lot of hard work, he rose to the ranks to become a principal. When Peter left the company, he started a men's workout program at the suggestion of company therapist Marika Molinar there at the school. He designed the program with the intentions of strengthening the male dancers in mind, body, and spirit. It was probably here where he learned that not everything can be taught. Some things must be instilled. Peter led by example. His leadership was positive, and his input, and will always be remembered by the students that he molded. Now, I'd like to personally talk about the Peter that I knew, and I broke it down into three aspects of his life: the person, the student, the teacher/mentor. As a person, I found Peter to be full of life, appreciating all good things that life had to offer. Peter was genuine, always genuine, and always was able to keep his wonderful sense of humor intact. He was a good guy with a boisterous laugh and a keen sense of humor. We made each other laugh often. He could be very entertaining with his observations and his thoughts. He was respectful, reverent, compassionate, sensitive, and sincere. Peter was a hero also. He helped me out when I had my times of doubt and destiny, and I'm sure he's helped many of you in your lives. As a student, Peter was a teacher's dream. He was curious and hardworking. He sought approval in all that he did. He gave only his best. Mediocrity was not of his world. A hard worker, he found that success would soon be his reward. We all saw that positive energy, that sense of humor, that reverence, that respect and compassion. We all knew of Peter's sincere efforts. He was a true disciple of our beloved art. As a teacher, his ability to awaken the creative imaginations became his goal and a serious concern. The students that he mentored looked up to him because of the person they instantly knew. A teacher of wisdom, full of energy, positive energy, and direction. A man who had great regard for the needs and feelings of others around him. He was a teacher with a warm smile, a great sense of humor, and lots of patience. Peter helped out his students. He was very proud of them, and they made him proud. He took pride in their efforts, their forward steps, and ultimate successes as they went on toward their careers. I'm sure by now you all have been touched by his character and his integrity. He was an elegant gentleman who touched so many lives and helped so many people realize their dreams. Peter had heart. He had a big heart. He loved his family, his students, his friends, and even his pets. He was all about love and finding the best in folks while hoping they would become aware of the best in themselves. Peter displayed a shield of lightheartedness. We may never know what that shield was protecting him from. Was it from pain or grief or disappointment, rejection? We will never know what degree that caused the pain. He simply wanted the best for us all. He was my beautiful yet fragile friend, like a butterfly. I shall remember him forever and always will be grateful that God saw fit to give all of us such a wonderful friend. In this afternoon's program, we will follow the order as written. And next we have now a time of sharing and reflection from the family. And that's done by Dr. Paul Frank.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Frank and Peter's twin brother. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming today to celebrate Peter's life. I know there are those who wanted to come but weren't able to today. I'd like to take the time and to introduce some of my family to you today. My brother, Jim, his wife, Leslie, their daughter, Lily, their daughter, Noelle, and Keelan, her boyfriend. Thanks for coming. And over here is my sister, one of her daughters, Katie. And she's my niece, but my nephew is down there taking a nap. His name is Will. So that's what I call him, my nephew. I want to take the time to thank Jim and his son Ben. Ben's not here today, for lovingly and honorably taking care of Peter in the early days of his passing. It took great courage and strength, and the entire family will be forever grateful. Such love was shown to Peter. Jim has continued to process Peter's estate and has been in the city since the 20th or so. I'm sure if you talked with Jim, he would say that he is honoring Peter's life by doing so with dignity and through love. Leslie and Peter had a very close relationship and was especially supporting Peter during this last year. The loss of Peter has touched her very deeply, and Peter could not have had a better heart alongside him than Leslie's. And I'm so happy to have my nieces and Keelan and my nephew with me today here again. We loved Peter very much, and our hearts have a great emptiness in the wake of his passing. I know you feel the same. So today we join our hearts with yours and continue the process of healing together and celebrating his life. From the beginning after Peter's passing and planning the memorial, I have received a tremendous amount of help. At home in Arizona, I want to thank Joanne, Powell, and Natalia, Sergey, and Dawn, Callum and Nicole, my friends in North Carolina, Renee and Eric. Barbie is coming from West Virginia, and she and Peter had one of the closest relationships before he passed. So thank you for coming in. I want to thank Kay Mazo and Renee Rossi at the School of American Ballet, Julia Dugno from Ballet Academy East, Jonathan Stafford, Debbie Coolidge, and Sorokia Walton at New York City Ballet. There were numerous calls and emails over the weeks, and I was met with their patient, loving kindness throughout. Their love for Peter is profound, and I will always remember the assistance. Shown to me during a difficult time for all of us. Delia Peters was there right alongside me, and Paul Bowes, I know you're here somewhere, but we used to be really good pals in New York City Ballet, and I want to thank him. He who made so many obstacles disappear from me on a daily basis. And his help didn't stop there. Even when he wasn't feeling well, he continued helping me. And he was able to relax me and when much had to be planned. And Paul, looking back on that time, I realized even more how much of a gift you've been to me. Andy, I know you're here. I want to thank you for your support and help you gave me. Your love for Peter was evident, and I thank you on his behalf. I want to thank Leslie, Roy Heck, Lindy, and Flo for putting a beautiful video together for us today. I think you're really going to love it. They were original band of friends of Peter's, and their love for him is evident in this video. Working with them during this time produced a lot of tears, just as much love, and new memories going forward. So, thank you. There are many others that I don't have time to thank today, but you know who you are, and your help will not be forgotten. But especially today, I want to thank Dr. Mel Tomlinson, Jacques D'Amboise, Kay Mazo, Harrison Cole, Danny Duell, Nancy McDill, Mitchell Lyon, and Alexander Jorgensen will be filming this service for us today. And Kevin, thank you for writing the whole program. I thought we were going to, at the end of the service, come up this way, but I think the family will go up front at the end, and you can come and pass us by that way at the end of the service. From the beginning of our lives, Peter and I were linked in a way that's difficult to describe. We were together in the womb, sharing space, born, then sharing the same cradle in the hospital. We shared the same playpens, and Mom and Dad said that Peter and I had a special language that we used to use with one another before we spoke. Around the age of 5, I remember Dad would introduce us as Pete and Repeat. And I didn't like that because I was born first. And it just wasn't accurate. Of course, later in life, Peter would say I wasn't older because we were both conceived at the same time. Anyway, I came out first at 7 pounds 3 ounces, and Peter followed at a hefty 6 pound 14.5 ounces too. So poor mama. But at birth, Peter was described as fair and me ruddy, which is kind of brown and red. Peter said, get ready for the little potty talk here. Peter said that I pooped on him when I was born and had abandonment issues when I left him. I told him he was sitting on top of me that whole time and he deserved it, and that's why I was all red in the face when I was born. So, just to peek into some of the conversations that Peter and I had. We were dressed alike for years, which started changing around the 6th grade. The last years in the city, we lived 2 brownstones apart from each other. And countless times we would come out at the same time and realize we were wearing the same clothes, and one of us, our eyes would go back and look at each other, and one of us would go back and change it. We didn't have to, but we did. He was with me in just about every class, you know, grade school, junior high, high school. And in school, the teachers had students sit alphabetically. So Peter always sat behind me, which wasn't always good for me. In the 4th grade, Peter decided to take his muddy shoes and scrape them on the back of my seat, smearing mud all over me. In the 2nd grade, Peter thought it was a good idea to poke me in my sides while I was answering an algebra question to the teacher. And after that yelp came out of my mouth, the teacher lowered my grade by 1 letter. Peter won again. And in the 9th grade science class, we were taking a written test, and I would hear from me more than that class, "What's number 4?" or whatever. And I didn't answer, and so I won that time. But he did kick my chair quite a lot after that. We always seemed to be together, sharing the same friends, and doing the same things day in and day out. Our day-to-day interactions were mixed with fighting and getting along, not thinking too much about it. We shared the same bed for years, and then bunked beds for the last few, but always in the same room. We just got used to being together day after day. We played instruments in the marching band, Peter the trumpet, me the saxophone, and then came dancing. My sister had started first, followed by my younger brother, and then Peter. I watched the performance and it looked like fun, so I started the following year. Eventually, Peter and I stayed with it and received some summer scholarships to North Carolina School of the Arts at different times. It became evident at that time that Peter had a special talent. And it seemed a road began to open up before him effortlessly, leading him to New York City Ballet. As he was an apprentice in New York City Ballet, I was accepted into SAB. Peter became a full member of New York City Ballet, and 2 years later, I would be as well. I would stay for 10 years, and Peter would stay for 14. But together again we were. For those 10 years and a total of 18 years before I would leave the city for chiropractic school. During those years, I realized that Peter was the more spontaneous one and I was the thinker of the two. And maybe that's what twins naturally do to achieve their separate personality. But later in life, we learned to balance our lives out by taking on some of the other's character. Maybe he needed to think before doing, and I needed to get more out of my head. It would eventually prove good for both of us. And Peter was the clean one, and I was the messy one. He would come visit me Phoenix, and goes, "How can you live like this?" And I was like, "I just do, Peter." And he would cling. He really wasn't anyone. I never wanted to leave New York City, but realized I would have to in order to go to school. It was a strange moment when we said goodbye at the airport. So many years together, and suddenly a moment in time was before us that would shift us onto different paths. Ultimately, we knew it was good for both of us, and we began our own lives separately, for really the first time. We were always in touch, knowing what the other was up to. I would visit the city at times, and he would come out to Arizona and visit me. We both got tattoos together out west when we were 40 and 50. The same tattoo of a dragonfly the first time, and different ones the second time. It was drama, and we loved it. It was all about the goop on that, the bandage, the watching each other. It was a lot of fun. I thought for sure Peter was not going to be able to handle the experience well, and I would tough it out, but that's not how it played out at all. Peter was up first, his eyes focused forward, and he didn't say a word. And I was like, "Doesn't that hurt, Peter?" And I was up next, and I became a sweaty disaster, naughty words coming out of my mouth constantly. I made the mistake of telling the tattoo artist to make it twice the size since it was going on my butt. That was a big mistake. That was a big mistake. They laughed at me, and Peter took pictures the entire time. The same thing happened. I was really sweaty. The same thing happened all over again at 50, and nothing changed. Thank God for the 5 to 6 Tootsie Pops that they gave me to get through it. We had funny synchronicities happen between us over the years. We'd call each other up and find that we both just seen the same movie, and that happened a lot. We would send each other gifts in the mail, and they would be more similar in nature, and that happened a lot in these last few years. It was supposed to be a surprise to both of us, but we ended up getting each other very similar things. I could get a good sense if Peter was feeling good or not, so good. Before picking up the phone, and the most of the time was on point. He probably felt the same way with me. After retiring from New York City Ballet, Peter began teaching at SAB and eventually BAE. And after a few years, I started noticing that Peter was taking a unique approach to his teaching. He was, of course, teaching technique, but he began finding ways to get to dancers become more aware of their emotions that they brought to their dancing. And as every professional dancer knows, unhealed emotions can make things difficult for you when you enter a high-pressure atmosphere of a company. Peter honed these skills over the years, and he shared with me years of stories of breakthroughs his students would have, and the many thanks from parents for what he had done for their daughter or son. Peter also had many spiritual trips around the world over the years, of our different lives apart, and he loved them. He shared all aspects of those trips in great detail. He was on a spiritual path, and it brought him great comfort. The last years, Peter and I would lavish each other with Christmas gifts. I mean, like a lot. And we'd wrap them and decorate them. We were both single, and I think it was a way of, making a fuller day. And we always had each other, even though we argued at times, didn't agree with everything. That's a tough one. We made time on Christmas Day for a couple of hours to open the gifts over the phone. Each would have ordered goodies that our mom loved when she was alive and eat them while we unwrapped the gifts. We were very aware of our love for one another, and we would always tell each other we loved each other before we got off the phone. As we became older, we reminisced about our past. We realized, it's okay, I got the same. We realized how lucky we were to have these incredible years in New York City Ballet, with George Balanchine and Jerome Robbins at a time of plenty. It was amazing to us that we were able to come from the hills of West Virginia into a whole new world in New York City. I somehow always knew that Peter would go before me in life. It was just a feeling I had, and I was okay with it. And we actually talked about it. It's just one of those talks we could have. Peter didn't want me to go first, and him left behind without me. Whoever got there would do all they could to be in touch. You know, we'd say that to each other. We were at Peter's apartment 2 days, was it yesterday, Leslie, or 2 days ago, with the birdie. So anyway, I've never seen a bird in his apartment before, but we had his door open to his garden, and there was a big heavy metal door there. But we were in his bedroom, and this thing came in. I thought it was a big moth, big bedroom. And so we followed it, and it was a little wren, Jim, I think. Thought it was a little wren, a cute little pot-belly thing. And went to the door, and then went back, and I said, Jim, you know, open the door, whatever, but it just flew out. And I don't know. Maybe it was Pete. Anyway, I just didn't know this was going to happen so soon, you know. The morning I found out on Peter's passing, it was like that link we've always had was just ripped out from inside me. I didn't know it could hurt so deeply. And there was just no way I could prepare for something like this. I miss Peter terribly, and our family does, and I know you do too. At times I don't know how I'm going to be able to handle all this without him. No. How do I live the rest of my life without seeing or hearing from him again? But in the seasons of grieving that lie ahead, I'm sure the warmth of the summer sun will once again lure me forward, and I can begin to not focus on what I've lost, but what I gained from having Peter by my side all these years. While the earthly bond has changed, somehow I know that that link we had is not gone, and that one day we will see each other again and have much to talk about. Today, my family and all of you present are experiencing an important time to continue the healing process together. None of us are alone in this experience, and it gives me great comfort to know that we're all doing this together. You know, I can't do it by myself, you can't. That's a beautiful part of humanity, you know? So we will breathe through this together. We'll breathe through this together. And we'll celebrate together the many wonderful achievements Peter accomplished while he was here with us. One last thing I want to say, and I want to direct it to his students. Ones he just had, and ones that are in companies now. I'm an adult. And this is a very difficult experience for me. And I can only imagine how difficult it is for you to make sense of Peter's passing in your minds and your hearts. I encourage you to share your feelings with your parents, counselors at the school, and friends. If you need more help, seek a good therapist. I know of a wonderful one here in New York City, and I left my email at the end of the bulletin. If you need that or anything else you want to share with me. What is important to know, that the process will take a long time, you know? It doesn't go away in 2 months, and it's good to know that, you know? You might feel depressed, and you might feel angry too, and that's normal too. Now, students, I want you to know, when you're younger, you're not alone. In our hearts, when we're having our emotions in your bed every night or wherever, you feel alone. But look at everybody here today. We're all going through the same things. You're not alone. Okay? I also want you to know, students, that Peter believed every word he spoke to you. He shared with me over the 20 years countless stories of your tears, your beautiful, brave voices speaking your inner truths out loud, and all of your breakthroughs that you experienced in your dancing under his guidance. Peter did not have to go as far as he did with you, but he did it because he truly cared about you. He wanted you to be prepared to experience the joys of dancing, and he knew his teaching could help make a difference. These experiences brought Peter great joy and fulfillment, and if you ask me, I believe it was his greatest achievement. You guys, helping you guys. One day, if it hasn't happened already, you'll have someone come to you needing help, whether in the field of dance or some other career, and words will pass your lips. And you'll realize that they were Peter's words that he once shared with you. And the grateful look on the face of that person you help will be exactly the same look Peter saw in your eyes when he said the same words to you. This should bring you much comfort knowing that Peter's teachings have stayed alive within you and that you have passed on Peter's wonderful legacy. And thus you will have made it your own. I love you all. Thank you. I'm so happy to share this day with you.
We love you too, Paul.
Thank you.
Peter was many things. For me, he was my uncle, my sweet Uncle Peter. For a lot of you, he was former New York City Ballet principal dancer, Mr. Frame. He was a teacher, a trainer, also a loving son, brother, twin, an amazing baker, an artist, and a comedian, a side of him I wish everyone could have seen. Besides all of this, and his obvious talent as a dancer and teacher, I think a lot of us in this room knew him as something else, a healer. I think Peter knew his purpose in life was to help others, to heal them of their struggles. Peter took on everyone else's problems like they were his own. While teaching technique and turnout, he was teaching his students so much more. Peter taught everyone how to grow and develop so everyone had the chance of becoming the person they were created to be. Peter was known for telling his students to look at the man in the mirror. In addition to becoming the best dancer you could be, his true desire was to help his students reflect on their strengths and weaknesses, tap into their passion, discover their purpose, and develop their skills so they can be all they were destined to be. This was a gift he gave to all of his students, friends, and family. Truly a gift that will keep on giving. Peter's gift to me was being more than an uncle, more than a ballet teacher, but always, always a friend. There was nothing I couldn't talk to him about. His big lesson for me, though, was to let go of the things I can't control, and as he would say, trust in divine order, and that things will work out. He'd say, Noe, breathe, let go, and just trust. This is something I've had a hard time doing since he's passed. For a while, all I could think about were the things Peter isn't going to be here for, and all the milestones he's going to miss. But as he always advised me, I'm going to work on letting go of this pain of future life without my uncle. Instead, I'll focus on all that he was here for. I'm going to smile every time I see a dragonfly, listen to his voicemail singing me happy birthday every November, bake his favorites every Christmas, or at least try to, toast to him at the start of every new year and new beginning, think of him every time ABC has a Harry Potter marathon on. I love Harry Potter. Take an extra smell for him when I buy a beautiful bouquet of flowers, eat more organic food, as he always nagged me to do, and hold on to all of his precious jewelry he gave me, so one day I can pass them along to my future daughter and tell her all about my amazing, crazy, and loving Uncle Peter. I will find comfort knowing he has passed on to a much better place. Many of you know that Peter was very spiritual. He would often tell me stories of past lives and the possibility for future lives. I hope we can all find peace knowing Peter isn't in pain anymore. He's moved on to his next journey, where I know he's spreading his love and contagious joy and healing so many others like he did for all of us.
Not everything that happens to us can be written. I cannot find the right words for my Uncle Peter because I cannot write anything more beautiful than him. When I write about what happened, I do not know how to explain the way I feel. Words can hardly convey the meaning and value that comes from the unspoken word. But I will attempt to unpack the totality of Peter's physical time on earth with the term light worker. This word, light worker, carries glimpses of him. He was a warm and heavenly perpetual light of guidance. He was not the sort of light you see often. Peter was our light worker, our very own earth angel, a spiritual being in human existence sent to heal. Even today, I feel he is around me, with me, and maybe even protecting me. Peter was our beacon of inspiration, but the mold for his light has broken, and a shining light in our lives is no longer shining. I find myself scrambling to keep him alive however way I can, scrambling for new ways to feel close with him again, scrambling for memories I can hang on to. Memories of love will keep Peter's presence alive, but can you believe how many memories can confide in one person? I travel to places where these memories of Peter and I reside and discover a mosaic memory bank. I recall a moment in times past when I had once become overcome with sorrow. Peter told me, treasure the expression, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And he was right. Although he isn't physically walking among us today, Peter's spirit lives on with all who are here today. This world will not be the same without his heart-to-heart hugs, the comfort of his presence, and the physical Peter. There's a sadness deep inside me that trembles knowing that I'll never touch someone as beautiful as him. I know that death is not hearing Peter's voice or the roar of his laughter. It is the memory my brain has conceived of his voice, but it is not his own. When I heard the news, I stood alone, deciphering a universe without my dearest uncle. I wondered how I could continue on and adjust to this new reality. I have always known how important it is to love, but now even after his death, Peter has taught me to value love in many new ways. The way I feel about life has changed forever. I think about how short life is and how it means so much more to me now. But I didn't think I'd ever have to go through something like this. Now I continuously remind myself that I need to make life mean more, but I want things to return to normal, to be as they were before. This grief is like a physical object. It is a big, heavy, shapeless thing that is always there, no matter what I'm doing or where I am. Without any warning, I cry, and I never know when or where it will consume me. I'm learning how to trust in healing because there is a beauty in what we are enduring. Who knew the heart could stretch so much and hold so many feelings? How novel a thing, the heart. Peter's name remains forever engraved on my heart because I know I'll never have that love again. With loss, there's a promise anew. And I wait with an open heart for that to transpire. To learn how to untangle the complexities of life is to understand the degree of human emotions. In darkness, there is light. In sorrow, joy. I know my Uncle Peter is in the light, and the light will provide him with all that he needs. I will keep his light shining on as I travel from day to day, month to month, year to year, and life to life. May our devastations make us more merciful.
Good afternoon. It's an honor for you to join us today. And thank you. You'd be honored by your words and your feelings and your support for him. Thank you. Noe, Lily, thank you for sharing today, deep from your heart. Somehow you know you have twin brothers when on Christmas you received unique gifts. Such as 2 years ago when I opened the package and there was a battery charger. And the battery charger was from Paul. And then I opened up a gift from Peter and I have a battery charger from Peter. I don't know how they did this, but they did. I took Pete and repeat to a new height as the older brother. I'll admit I took advantage of that. I remember being in the first grade, playing West Virginia, a little small town in West Virginia. And they asked to bring someone in for show and tell, so I kept thinking of Peter and Paul. But I asked them, I said, now you guys get this right. Okay, you're Pete, you're repeat. So I'd talk to Paul and say, what's your name? You have to say repeat. So they came in and introduced them to the principal of the school. They each introduced themselves as Pete and repeat. So you were repeat and Paul. So anyway, we did some silly things. A letter to Peter from Jim. Dear Peter, I love you and I miss you. Family and friends, we all do. How I wish you had called that morning I had so many things to share with you, Pete. I still do. While I've noticed feelings of sadness in your passing, I find comfort in the times that we had together as brothers and family. I know that you are at peace and you're in God's hands. When I see the sky and the clouds and the sun and the trees, I observe them for you. When I feel the calming breeze or falling rain, I feel them for you. When I hear the birds and their singing, I listen to them for you. In these moments I say, hello, Peter. There are so many hellos. This was one. I am learning to say goodbye, Pete. A goodbye that welcomes my thoughts and feelings as honored guests, where each have their time, and I can let go to see you anew, like now. In closing, Pete, I feel that my hellos and my goodbyes are merging together into one flowing stream of hope and healing, often calming, with moments larger than life, where we dwell together as brothers forever. Goodbye for now, Pete. See the music and hear the dance. I love you, Jen. Oh, and one more thing, Pete. Hello.
You notice it rained today. It's raining now. I was thinking about the sun burying its head, arms and clouds, crying, rain tears, because it's a sad occasion. But that's not Peter. This is Peter waking up. This is his philosophy. Throw out your arms full sail. Then gaze upon the rising sun and call out, "Good morning, sun." Thank you for your life and warmth. Then go have breakfast. Well, this is a poem. Goodbye. We had him once a little while, but now no more. In raiments, clad of dancing joy, but now no more. 'Twas cruel fate that took him from us, dimmed the light of the sun, darkened the shadows of the moon. We had him once a little while, now no more.
extraordinary, wasn't it? So beautiful. And I'm Kay Mazo. I'm a teacher at the School of American Ballet, and we have lots of our students here who have been taught by Peter. And I can tell you we miss him so much every day. And we also want to thank him for his 25 years of teaching our students. He helped so many of our young men get stronger as dancers and as people. Peter always had a positive attitude, and every once in a while, when a young student didn't seem to be understanding the importance of Peter's training, he might get a little frustrated. And once in a great while, Peter might have gotten very frustrated, but he never gave up on a student. He had great fortitude. And as a ballet dancer, as we all just saw now, he was incomparable. His movement was so unique that Paul Taylor recreated his solo and episodes for Peter, and it was a huge success, as his dance career was. But while Peter, the dancer and teacher, was wonderful, I think we will remember him and miss him for his person, his kindness, his humbleness, and his love he gave to me and our SAB family. Peter was a gentle person and a gentleman who treated everyone with respect and kindness, and he will not be forgotten. And at Christmas, he used to give us all these wonderful ornaments that he made himself, and they were bright and light. And he loved the light and the stars in all of these ornaments. So I have a little part of a poem of Longfellow, which I think suits our dear friend Peter to a T. Silently, one by one, in the infinite meadow of heaven, blossomed the lovely stars, the forget-me-nots of the angels. Peter was and will always be a star for all of us and for his family, and we thank him.
Thanks, Paul, for inviting me here. To my dearly beloved, wise, poised, gracious mentor, Peter Frame. Last year I thanked you and praised you at the David H. Koch Theater after I was bestowed the Janice L. Levin Award. I'm so happy that I was able to attribute the heart and soul of my dancing to your sensitive and patient guidance. And to have the opportunity to reiterate that and thank you for your love and positive light here. It's a profound honor that holds so much weight. I first encountered Peter Frame as the School of American Ballet's head of strength and conditioning program. Weight training for young men was a new venture for the School of American Ballet, and he headed the program for some 25 years, and it was one of the first of its kind in any ballet school. The exercises and classes that Peter pioneered were designed to produce steadfast partners who had the power and stability in their muscles to execute any choreographic challenge effectively and safely. He wanted us to be healthier dancers so that we could all enjoy this beautiful passion we all shared for as long as we wanted. I knew from my very first class that 1, this man was unlike any teacher I had ever encountered, and 2, this class had more than just weightlifting to it. Peter took it upon himself to give us tools that applied not only to dancing, but methods for lifting the weight from our hearts and minds when dealing with all sorts of challenges we face in life. One of the greatest tools in his pedagogy was breath. He always reminded us about that. Sometimes he would start class with breath fire. You'd say things like, find your breath, find your strength, find your peace. I find myself using that right about now, Peter. Reading the outpouring of love from so many posts, past and present students of yours on social media was amazing. I love that so many others had stories with Peter that reminded me of my own experience with him. Everyone just seemed to share and articulate so beautifully that any person and artist who passed through his light, intention, and commitment was lifted from any doubt or negativity in their heart. It was especially powerful to read the tributes of former students whom we all shared your powerful gifts with. You empowered us from within. Yes, of course, we did endless repetitions of inclined bench presses with free weights and agonizing supersets of chin-ups, bicep curls, and shoulder presses. But I often recall the end of your class. This powerful exercise that was perhaps the most difficult and strengthening of all. You sat us down and urged us to think of one word to help guide our intention for the day. One word like buoyancy, joy, fun, groundedness, balance, faith, passion, dedication, with which we could use to focus ourselves and use to meditate with. This exercise awakened us all to a deeper and more thoughtful way to experience not only ballet, but how we experience life. We were discovering the importance of interpreting feelings and letting them rise to the surface. We could then go on to be more authentic, healthy artists, true strength, with weight truly lifted. Sometimes this exercise would make me so emotional that I would stay after class and we would talk and talk. We would breathe, discuss, and release tension by way of such a special and honest communication in a way that I've never encountered before. It made me feel like we were kindred spirits. And I know Peter made every one of his students feel exactly the same way. The heart with which you made me feel proud to bear openly for audiences now aches so intensely in the face of this new reality in which I don't get to see your welcoming, shining smile. But as I process your absence in the world, I'm filled with the memories and words and echoes of the gifts you shared with hundreds and hundreds of people. After the 11th ceremony, Peter shared with me his surprise to hear that I honored him in my speech, and I realized something. Peter was one of the most giving humans I've ever met. It confused me to think he possibly doubted that people would remember to even appreciate or credit him with their success. He was just the most selfless person. In reading a letter that Peter wrote to a student to help in a bereavement process that student was going through, he wrote, "Your reassuring love will benefit them greatly at this time just by sheer intention of your heart. It is but a veil that separates the two of you presently." I feel that veil is surely lifted today, and I wanted to take that opportunity to say, Peter, I love you, I miss you, and I carry with you all the gifts and teachings that you've given me, and I will continue to pass on the wisdom and gifts in your honor.
In your program, you may have a copy of the eulogy. Peter Franklin Frame, sometimes affectionately known as Pete, Petey, and Petey Rabbit, was born April the 16th, 1957, and transitioned on August 30th, 2018. He was born in Charleston, West Virginia, to Marvin and Mary Elizabeth Frame. He is survived by his twin brother Paul, brothers James, John, and sister Miriam. Brothers-in-laws, sister-in-laws, nieces, nephews, and a host of friends. A very bright light in this world, Peter was a friend and mentor to many, and a stranger to none. His spiritual guidance, his character, and his sense of humor were paramount in the lives of so many of us. He loved to smile out loud as only he could. He most often showed us a light-hearted and happy person. For many, Peter was the light at the end of the tunnel, as well as the beginning. He always found time to share his joy with others as he greeted them with his infectious smile and his crystal blue eyes. You always felt as though you had his undivided attention. His life's journey, which included studies with teachers Jerry Rose of Beckley Dance Theater in West Virginia, Duncan Noble at the University of the North Carolina School of the Arts, George Balanchine and Stanley Williams at the School of American Ballet, will lead him to dance in New York City Ballet for 14 years, and later teach for 25 years at the School of American Ballet and almost 2 decades at Ballet Academy East. To his friends, family, students, and anyone whose life he touched, please know that Peter's light has not gone out, but has simply dimmed somewhat in this earthly reality. His spirit and legacy will be with us all and will live in each of us who were lucky enough to be touched by his love. Peter's life was not in vain. In his own words, breathe, breathe, and celebrate. Out of the book of Revelations, I have the following. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying. Neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Revelations chapter 21, verse 4. I've asked to allocate this time for a moment of silence from you, silence and prayer, and I'll chime in your prayers. So let us pray. Hear our prayers, O Lord. Father, eternal and everlasting, we come before you today, giving you the honor, praise, and the glory. Thank you for this time, this opportunity to come together to celebrate the life of our dear friend, Peter Frame. Father, we know that you're a God of many things, a God of healing. Heal these broken hearts, Father. Mend them. Heal and lift and lighten the burdens that people may have upon them, Father. Father, we are not perfect, but we try to be favorable in your sight. We ask for your forgiveness of sins of omission, commission, and admission, Father. I ask that you place a fence around my family here as we are gathered, and give us comforts in all the comforts be. It is in your loving name, Father, that we ask these things. We know that you are still in charge, and this too shall pass. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Before we leave, I'd like to say one of my and I want your help. My favorite verses from the Bible, Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd. If you will join with me, because we're visual art people, I will be signing it. This is what I do in my church at home. I'm a minister for the deaf and the hard of hearing. You can hear me without this. Please join me. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you very much for coming on. Let's continue to celebrate and have great memories.